What's good, everybody? As you may have read from the title, this is coming from the perspective of a Taylor Swift hater. I've never particularly liked or enjoyed Taylor Swift's music, and the popularity surrounding her name never really made any sense to me. I've only ever heard her most popular songs like Bad Blood or 22 or some of her more popular recent music. So as you can imagine, I'm not very versed on most of her musical prowess. For years, I've held the opinion and belief that her music is nothing but songs about her past exes or some past relationship that she had, which is exactly why I'm going to listen to every single one of her albums in order to form an educated and proper opinion on her music. I will be doing this in parts. This is just part 1 with her first album, self-titled, being the first on the chopping block. I am absolutely doing this just to gain exposure and views. If you have a problem with it, fight me. I don't really care. This endeavor can either dispel or prove my beliefs. As of today, let's look at the dates. July 23rd, 2025. I am a Taylor Swift hater. Let's see if that changes. For this challenge, it's essential to establish some form of a rule system or rating system. Here's what we'll be doing. If you don't like it, go cry your mother's. I'll be dividing sections of albums into eras, since that's basically her entire shtick. Here are the eras we will be reviewing. First up, we have the early years / the popularity boom. A part of this category are self-titled, released October 24th, 2006, Fearless, released November 11th, 2008, and Speak Now, released October 25th, 2010. Next, we have the solidification of popularity. The albums under this title are Red, released October 22nd, 2012, 1989, released October 27th, 2014, Reputation, released November 10th, 2017, and finally Lover, released August 23rd, 2019. Next, we have The Roaring 2020, with 2 albums, Folklore, released July 24th, 2020, Evermore, released December 11th of the same year. The final era that I have written down on my list is the second popularity, with Midnights, released October 21st, 2022, and The Tortured Poets Department, released April 19th, 2024. We will only be reviewing official studio albums, so no live songs, singles, and or concerts. This is because it would take me just way too long to listen to all of her original music, all of her live albums, and then re-listen to all of her music by listening to Taylor's version of all of her songs. That would just take way too long. Every song that we listen to will get a rating out of 10. Look, I was considering 100, but something in me told me that you guys can't do that, so we'll just stick to 10. After finishing each album, we'll do an analysis and a review, and give it a personal ranking out of 10 along with a mean rating. For you couch potatoes that may or may not have this video in the background, that means I'll add up the scores of every song on the album and then divide it by however many songs are on the album. We'll do the same process but on a broader scale with the eras in eventual videos. Finally, because I'm a hating nigga and I want to prove a point, I also have a counter of how many songs Mrs. Swift has about her ex in the corner of the screen. It should be anywhere around here. It won't be there the entire video, but it'll absolutely come in handy at some point. I mean, yeah, that basically sums up the rules for this challenge. I've got nothing left to read on the script, so I guess it's time to listen to real music. As past me is listening to these albums, let me give you some background on Taylor Swift as an artist and an overview of her career, since that's more interesting than watching me listen to hours upon hours of Taylor Swift's music. Taylor Allison Swift was born December 13th, 1989, awfully close to my birthday, in Reading, Pennsylvania, to parents Andreas Swift and Scott Kingsley Swift. Taylor Swift also has a younger brother named Austin, who I'd hope she loves dearly. What the f*** is script? I did. Back on track. Her musical career began to spark when, at age 12, her family made a trip to Nashville, where she attempted to distribute karaoke tapes of her singing, but to no avail. However, things were changing back home in PA, as Taylor was asked to sing at the US Open tennis tournament, when her rendition of the national anthem received much attention. From here on out,
Taylor was obsessed with creating and performing music. In 2005, age 15, Taylor Swift became the youngest staff songwriter ever hired by Sony ATV Tree Publishing House. Basically just a music company, because that was just a lot of word sandwich. This was a major achievement for Taylor, as it could possibly lead to her having an extremely impactful and legendary career in music. However, if you have at least, 2 brain cells, I think you know what came of Taylor and her record label. But let's get back on top. If you were listening to any portion of this video, then you'd know that I've been listening to Self-Titled, released in 2006. The first song on this album, Tim McGraw, was technically released earlier than the album as a standalone single. The album sold 39,000 copies during its first week. Peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Top Country Albums and number 5 on the Billboard 200. Spent 8 consecutive weeks at the top country album at the top for 24 out of 91 weeks. Charting album on the Billboard 200 of the entire 2000s decade. 285 weeks on the chart. Blah blah blah. This album was extremely popular. Before anything, let me get one thing off of my chest. This album does not suck. I'm about to tear it to shreds, but I'll give credit where credit is due. For a 17-year-old, this was a pretty okay album, but I could not care less about age during the making of this project. As I said earlier, this album begins with the song Tim McGraw, and I gave it an 8 out of 10. Not a bad rating. Although it is a song about her ex, I did like the beat and lyrics of the song. The duality of Taylor's voice and the uncredited Nathan Chapman, it was pretty good. It just took me a little too long to find out who the other singer on this song was, but I'll let that slide. This song gave me a sort of nostalgic feeling. This was the first song of this country style that I had listened to in a while, like a really long time. However, those are going to be the last praises of this album for a while, because this shit got me so bored while I was listening to it. I could not stand it. You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna play a game. I'm gonna play a 5-second snippet of a beat, and I want you to guess whether or not this is from Self-Titled or a random Luke Combs song. For those of you who may not know, Luke Combs is possibly one of the biggest country artists in the world as of today. That's why I'm using him as the example. Before that part of the video, have you subscribed? No? Change that. It's free, jackass. While you're at it, go ahead and click the like button as well. That's even more free. Come on, help the channel. Now that I'm done with my virtual begging, let's start the game.
Here's song 1. If you guessed Luke Combs, you'd be completely correct. If I wasn't a pathological fucking liar. This is Taylor Swift's A Place in This World. Here's song 2. If you guessed Luke Combs, you'd be absolutely correct. Nope, it's not a trick this time. You're right. Idiot. This is Taylor Swift's I'm Only Me When I'm With You. Try not to get wrong next time, man. Here's song 3. If you guessed Taylor Swift, you'd be absolutely 100% without a doubt incorrect.
God, forgive me.
You thought I put 3 Taylor Swift songs on you in a row? Use your brain. This is Luke Combs' When It Rains, It Pours. His most popular song ever. You got the next one. Here's song 4. If you guessed Taylor Swift, you would finally be correct. It took you 4 tries, but finally you got an answer right, so that's what matters. For those of you who got this one incorrect, timeout corner. Nothing more. This is Taylor Swift's Tied Together with a Smile. Let's make our way to the final instrumental. Here's the final song, song number 5. If you guessed Luke Combs, you got it correct. Great job. This is Luke Combs' Beautiful Crazy. It is his second most popular song ever. So do with that information what you will. If you couldn't figure it out already, These instrumentals all sound the same. There's practically no difference between all of these songs. This is more of a genre issue than a Taylor issue, but it's an issue nonetheless. I hate a basic song, let alone an entire album with zero originality and variance. I understand that these songs have somewhat meaningful lyrics, but if they're all told in the same pattern, flow, and cadence, then how am I supposed to enjoy what I'm hearing? You know what I mean? I can't, and I won't. But ranting aside, let's go over the ratings I gave each of these songs. Speed runtime. Tim McGraw got an 8 out of 10, possibly my favorite song on the album. Amazing song to start an album with, however, it was a song about an ex. Would I play it alone? Sure. Would I play it with friends? Nah. Picture to Burn got a 3 out of 10. The first song that suggested that this album would be extremely mundane. Another song about an ex. Would I play alone? No. Would I play with friends? No. Teardrops on My Guitar, the radio single remix, got a 6 out of 10. It has a somber instrumental, a decent guitar solo, but this song is nothing to really get excited for. It's also another song about an ex. Would I play alone? No. Would I play with friends? No. A Place in This World was used earlier, got a 5 out of 10. The song gets extremely repetitive at times, like, yes, Taylor, we understand that you're alone and that you're just a girl. However, it did have a cool ending. Would I play it alone? No. Would I play with friends? No. Cold As You got a 3 out of 10. This song continued the somber, minimal variety in the album. I quite literally yawned while listening to this song. Like, hey, yo! That, I yawn. It's insane. This song is also about an ex. Would I play alone? No. Would I play with friends? Continuing the tirade of the threes is The Outside. Extremely generic song. I know I sound repetitive right now, but think of it as me putting you through what I had to go through listening to this album. So insanely boring. However, there's a good message within the song, so that's pretty nice. Would I play it alone? No. Would I play it with friends? No. This is taking entirely too long, so let's only give a real review to songs that are either really good or really shit. Tied Together with a Smile, 7 out of 10. Would play alone, would not play with people. Stay Beautiful, 6 out of 10. Would not play alone, would not play with people. Should Have Said No got a 9 out of 10. This is my personal highest rated song on the album, and for good reason. This song doesn't completely break away from the generic, basic style of the rest of the album, but it does take on a rock style alongside of the country genre. However, this is a song about would I play alone? Yes. Would I play with friends? Also a yes. That is the first double yes we've got. Mary's song, Oh My My My, 8 out of 10. Would not play alone, would not play with people. Our song, would not play alone, would not play with people, 7 out of 10. I'm Only Me When I'm With You, 4 out of 10. Would not play alone, would not play with people. Invisible, 6 out of 10. Would not play alone, would play with people. A Perfectly Good Heart got a 2 out of 10. Possibly the worst sung song on the album. And it hurts to listen to this thing. It is an atrocity. Even for this album. I'm not playing this anywhere, and it's a song about an ex. Finally, Teardrops on My Guitar, the pop version, got a 5 out of 10. The encapsulation of mediocre. This is basically a summary of the entire album, an extremely mediocre piece of 2000s country garbage. I wrote a summary for this album, but I'm going to scrap that and just let editor me tell you how I really feel.
So, cut the music. This was one of the worst albums I've listened to in my entire life. I know I said this album wasn't bad earlier in the video. Listening to it over and over, it's really not that good. This thing was so generic and boring. I know I've repeated those words time and time and time and time again, but you have to understand just how generic and boring this piece of garbage was. So yeah, that's basically how I feel right now.
A total of 7 songs, based off of my interpretation, were about some ex that Taylor had. Now this is important because it explains the repetitive nature of this album, and explains the age of the artist that's making this project. Again, Taylor was 17 when this album was dropped. This does not help Taylor's case against my earlier statement. My personal rating of the album was a 4 out of 10, below mediocre. The mean score says that this album should be a 5.4, which is slightly above mediocre, but who cares about the mean score? I care about my score. I did not like this project whatsoever, but maybe Taylor's next project will wow me with something different. Next on the chopping block is Fearless, but that's for another video. This is just part 1. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.